We've all been taught that being nice is a virtue. From the time we were little girls, we were told to be polite, to smile even when we didn't feel like it, to say thank you even when we weren't grateful, and to never under any circumstances make someone uncomfortable, especially men. But here's the truth. Niceness is often a performance, while kindness is a value. Being nice is about making others feel comfortable, even at the expense of your own boundaries. Kindness, on the other hand, is rooted in authenticity, in courage, and in self-respect. Niceness asks you to be agreeable even when something feels wrong. It tells you to nod along in conversations where you should be speaking up. It tells you to laugh at jokes that make you uncomfortable, to soften your no so it doesn't sound too harsh, and to apologize for things that aren't your fault. Niceness is about pleasing others, often at the cost of betraying yourself. And the danger? The world rewards women for being nice, not because it's good for them, but because it makes them easier to control. Kindness is something entirely different. Kindness is not about pleasing people, it's about respect for yourself and others. When you're kind, you don't tolerate disrespect, and you don't let people walk all over you just to keep the peace. Kindness is honest, even when it's uncomfortable. It's looking someone in the eye and saying, I hear you, but I don't agree. It's telling a man, I'm not okay with that, instead of nervously laughing it off. Kindness is strength. Many women struggle with this distinction because we've been conditioned to believe that setting boundaries makes us mean, that saying no is rude, that speaking up is aggressive. But here's the truth. Kindness and boundaries go hand in hand. A kind person doesn't let others take advantage of them. A kind person doesn't say yes when their heart is screaming no. A kind person understands that saying no to something that drains them is actually a yes to their own well-being. And let's be honest, many men are not expected to perform niceness the way women are. When men are firm, they're called strong. When men refuse to do things they don't want to do, people respect their decisiveness. But when a woman does the same, she's labeled difficult, bossy, or rude. This is why women are constantly over-explaining, softening their words, and apologizing for simply existing. It's exhausting and it needs to stop. The next time you feel the urge to be nice, ask yourself, am I being nice or am I being kind? If your response is motivated by fear of being disliked, fear of making someone uncomfortable, fear of not being seen as a good woman, then you're probably being nice. But if your response comes from a place of truth, self-respect, and integrity, then you're being kind. And that is far more powerful. This shift is not easy. It takes practice to stop defaulting to niceness, to stop over-apologizing, and to stop prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own. But the moment you choose kindness over niceness, you step into your power. You start honoring your own needs instead of waiting for others to do it for you. You stop seeking permission to take up space. So let's stop being nice. Let's be kind instead. Because kindness is bold. Kindness is strong. And most importantly, kindness is honest. And an honest woman, she's unstoppable. From the time we were young, many of us were taught that being a good woman means putting others first. We learned that our worth is tied to how much we give, how accommodating we can be, how agreeable we are, how much emotional labor we perform without being asked. We were told that pleasing others is a sign of kindness, of being a good daughter, a good friend, a good partner. But what no one tells you is that people-pleasing comes at a cost, a steep one. When you live your life trying to make everyone else comfortable, you slowly lose yourself. You say yes when you mean no. You agree to plans you don't want to be part of. You bite your tongue when someone crosses a boundary because you don't want to seem difficult. You go along with what others want, thinking that if you just keep everyone happy, they will love you, respect you, or at the very least, not leave you. But here's the harsh truth. People-pleasing doesn't earn you love or respect. It earns you exhaustion and resentment. At first, it might feel good to be the one who always says yes, the one who smooths things over, the one who makes sacrifices without complaint. But over time, it starts to chip away at you. You become the go-to person for everyone's problems. But when you need support, where are they? You show up for everyone, but when was the last time someone truly showed up for you? People pleasing creates a dynamic where your needs are always last on the list. And the longer you let this pattern continue, the harder it is to break free. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that pleasing others will protect us from rejection. That if we just stay agreeable enough, quiet enough, low maintenance enough, people won't leave us. But here's the reality. The people who only stay in your life because you cater to them were never really there for you in the first place. True relationships, real, deep, meaningful connections, are not built on self-sacrifice. They are built on mutual respect, honesty, and reciprocity. And let's talk about what happens internally when you live your life trying to make everyone happy. You become anxious, constantly scanning the room for signs of disapproval, replaying conversations in your head to make sure you didn't upset anyone. You become overwhelmed, taking on more than you can handle because you don't want to let anyone down. And worst of all, you become resentful. You give and give until there's nothing left, and then you look around and realize that no one is doing the same for you. That kind of bitterness doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your health, your happiness, and your entire sense of self. But let me be clear, breaking free from people-pleasing doesn't mean becoming cold or selfish. It means shifting from external validation to internal validation. It means understanding that your worth is not determined by how much you do for others, but by who you are at your core. It means realizing that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person with self-respect. And let's be honest, if someone gets upset because you set a boundary, it's because they benefited from you not having one. So how do you start? You start small. You practice saying no without explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for things that don't require an apology. You remind yourself over and over again that you do not exist to make everyone else happy at your own expense. And when the discomfort creeps in, as it inevitably will, you remind yourself that your peace matters too. At the end of the day, you have a choice. Live your life walking on eggshells, constantly trying to meet everyone else's expectations, or step into your power and live for yourself. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't, they were never worth losing yourself over. There's a hard truth that many of us struggle to accept. People will treat you the way you allow them to. If you tolerate disrespect, it becomes the standard. If you constantly make excuses for bad behavior, it continues. If you stay silent when someone crosses a line, they learn that they can do it again without consequence. You set the tone for how others engage with you through your words, your actions, and most importantly, your boundaries. Many of us don't realize how much control we actually have over our relationships. We assume that people will automatically respect us, value us, and treat us with kindness because that's what we deserve. But the reality is, respect is not given freely, it's taught. And the way you teach it is by refusing to accept anything less. The moment you start demanding better treatment, by setting boundaries, by enforcing consequences, by choosing yourself, you shift the entire dynamic of how people engage with you. But here's the challenge. Teaching people how to treat you requires discomfort. It requires having hard conversations. It requires being okay with disappointing people. It requires risking their disapproval. And for many women, this is where we hesitate. We've been conditioned to believe that setting boundaries makes us difficult or cold. We fear that if we push back, we'll lose relationships. But ask yourself this, if someone only stays in your life because you let them walk all over you, is that really a relationship worth keeping? Think about the times you've said yes when you meant no. The times you let a snide comment slide because you didn't want to seem sensitive. The times you accepted an apology without real change because you didn't want to start an argument. In those moments, you weren't just avoiding conflict, you were teaching the other person that their behavior was acceptable. And what happens when you keep accepting mistreatment? It doesn't stop, it escalates. People push the limits you allow, and let's be honest, this isn't just about romantic relationships, it's about friendships, family, coworkers, every interaction in your life. If a friend only calls you when they need something and you continue to drop everything for them, they'll keep doing it. If a boss expects you to work late without extra pay and you keep saying yes, they will keep expecting it. People take what you give. If you keep giving too much, they will keep taking. But let's flip the script, because you also have the power to shift these dynamics at any time. You can start teaching people right now how to treat you better. It starts with small acts of self-respect, saying, actually, that doesn't work for me. Walking away from conversations that don't honor you, calling out disrespect instead of brushing it off, enforcing consequences when someone crosses a boundary, and most importantly, not being afraid to let people go if they refuse to respect you. Does this mean everyone in your life will react well to your new boundaries? No. Some people will push back. Some will try to guilt trip you. Some will walk away because they only valued you when you were easy to manipulate. Let them. The people who truly care about you will adjust, respect your boundaries, and honor your growth. The ones who don't, they were never truly invested in your well-being to begin with. At the end of the day, self-respect is not negotiable. It's not something you should have to beg for. The way you allow others to treat you is a direct reflection of how you treat yourself. So stand firm, set the tone, demand the respect you deserve. And if someone refuses to meet that standard, teach them with your absence. For so many women, being nice feels like the safest way to exist. We've been taught that if we're agreeable, accommodating, and pleasant, people will like us. That if we soften our voices, avoid conflict, and always put others first, we will be rewarded with love, appreciation, and respect. But here's the harsh truth. Niceness does not guarantee love. It does not guarantee respect. It does not protect you from being mistreated. In fact, the more you rely on niceness to navigate your relationships, the more you invite people to take advantage of you. Niceness, as we've been taught, is about pleasing others, not about honoring ourselves. It's the habit of smiling when we don't feel like it, of saying it's fine when it's not, of making ourselves small so we don't inconvenience others. It's apologizing for things that aren't our fault. It's over-explaining our decisions to ensure no one is upset. And at its core, it's rooted in a desperate hope that if we are just good enough, people will treat us well in return. But here's the problem. Love and respect don't come from making yourself smaller. They come from standing in your full power. Think about the times you've gone out of your way to be nice in a situation where you should have been firm. Maybe you let someone speak to you disrespectfully because you didn't want to seem rude. Maybe you ignored red flags in a relationship because you didn't want to appear too demanding. Maybe you took on extra work at your job without pushing back because you didn't want to seem difficult. And what happened? Did being nice earn you better treatment? Or did it just teach people that you're willing to tolerate being overlooked, overworked, or disrespected? Respect doesn't come from how much you accommodate others. It comes from how much you honor yourself. People respect those who set boundaries, who enforce consequences, who value themselves enough to say, this is not okay with me. And yes, some people will dislike you for it. Some will call you cold or selfish or too much. But I'll tell you this, being disliked for standing up for yourself is far better than being liked for betraying yourself. And let's talk about love, because many of us believe that if we are just nice enough, patient enough, forgiving enough, men will finally love us the way we deserve. We tell ourselves that if we don't ask for too much, if we don't complain, if we accept their half effort, they will eventually realize our worth. But love doesn't work that way. A man who truly values you will respect your standards. He won't require you to prove your worth through constant sacrifice. And if you have to abandon your own needs just to keep him happy, that's not love. That's self-abandonment. The people who truly care about you don't need you to be nice to keep them in your life. They need you to be real, to be honest, to be strong. The ones who demand niceness at the expense of your truth, they aren't looking for love or connection. They're looking for compliance. And the moment you stop giving it to them, they will either step up or step out. Either way, you win. So stop shrinking. Stop believing that being easygoing will earn you the love and respect you deserve. Stop thinking that if you just bite your tongue and keep the peace, people will finally see your worth. You don't have to be nice to be worthy. You don't have to be nice to be loved. You don't have to be nice to be respected. You just have to be you. And that all on its own is enough. At the end of the day, you have two choices. Spend your life bending over backward to be likable, or stand firm in your truth and demand the respect you deserve. One path leads to exhaustion, resentment, and disappointment. The other leads to self-respect, confidence, and the kind of relationships that are built on real love, not conditional approval. Choose wisely. Reclaim your voice, reclaim your power. For too long, women have been told to quiet down, to make themselves smaller, to shrink their needs, their wants, and their voices to fit inside a world that wasn't built for them. We've been conditioned to believe that speaking up is dangerous, that advocating for ourselves is selfish, that having an opinion makes us difficult. And so we learn to silence ourselves, to avoid confrontation, to swallow our discomfort, to let things go even when they hurt us. But here's the truth. When you silence your voice, you surrender your power. And the moment you reclaim your voice, you reclaim yourself. Think about all the times you wanted to speak up but didn't. The times you bit your tongue to avoid an argument. The times you said it's fine when it wasn't. The times you let someone else take credit for your work. Let someone dismiss your feelings. Let someone cross a boundary without saying a word, because you didn't want to make things uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Your silence doesn't make things better. It just makes it easier for others to continue disrespecting you. Reclaiming your voice doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean yelling or dominating every conversation. It means standing firmly in your truth and refusing to be talked over, dismissed, or ignored. It means setting boundaries and enforcing them. It means saying no without guilt. It means refusing to apologize for taking up space. It means knowing that your voice matters, because it does. Many of us hesitate to speak up because we fear what will happen if we do. We fear rejection. We fear being called too much or too emotional. We fear losing relationships, losing jobs, losing the approval we've been taught to seek. And sometimes we're right. Speaking up does come with consequences. Some people will walk away. Some will get defensive. Some will try to make you feel guilty for asserting yourself. Let them. The people who truly respect you will listen. The ones who don't, they were never really in your corner to begin with. And let's be clear, reclaiming your voice isn't just about what you say to others. It's also about what you say to yourself. It's about unlearning the negative self-talk that has kept you small. It's about challenging the voice in your head that tells you to stay quiet, to not rock the boat, to not make a big deal out of things. It's about replacing self-doubt with self-trust. The way you speak to yourself sets the foundation for how you show up in the world. If you keep telling yourself that your opinions don't matter, that your needs aren't important, that your presence isn't valuable, then you'll live your life as if those lies are true. It's time to rewrite the story. So how do you start? You start by practicing courage in small moments. You correct someone when they interrupt you. You stop over-explaining your choices. You call out disrespect when you see it. You ask for what you need, even if your voice shakes. You remind yourself daily that you are not here to be agreeable, to be palatable, to be whatever version of yourself makes others comfortable. You are here to be real, And yes, it's uncomfortable at first, after years of keeping quiet, of prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own. Using your voice can feel unnatural, almost rebellious. But with every word you speak in your truth, you get stronger. With every boundary you set, you build confidence. With every time you refuse to stay silent, you take back a piece of yourself that was never meant to be lost. This is what reclaiming your power looks like. At the end of the day, your voice is one of the most powerful things you own. Don't waste it on pleasing people who will never appreciate it. Don't let fear keep you small. Speak up, stand firm, reclaim your voice, and watch how everything in your life begins to shift. Because when you own your voice, you own your power. And when you own your power, you become unstoppable.